Welcome to episode 6. We are talking about the harder path and why 100% of the time, the tougher choice is the right choice to make. Let's dive in. Welcome. We are talking about the harder path and why the harder path is the correct one. I cannot wait
This is going to be some good stuff.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
So I just want to kick it off and kick it right to you because 99% of the time, the tougher path, the tougher decision, the choice to work out versus not, the choice to pick up a book instead of flipping on the TV, the choice to hop in the cold plunge versus take a nap. Like,
Yeah.
99% of the time, that choice that makes you more uncomfortable is the right one. Why?
Yeah. So 99%, it could be 100% of the time.
It is 100%,
right?
yeah.
And this is something I think is talked about a lot, but I don't think there's a high level of understanding behind it. Right. But, yeah, you should always dive into hard stuff. Why? Cold plunges. People are like, oh, what's the purpose behind a cold plunge? This is a bunch of like alpha males sitting in a fucking ice bath because they think it's going to look cool on Instagram.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
So I'll tell you a personal story in my transformation and evolution, just as a human, as a business person, as a leader of my family. I started doing these cold plunges. I started doing like cold showers every morning, like 7 days a week. I started doing cold showers. Well, it was hard. It's miserable. It's like people would ask, why?
Wait, do you go in cold or do you take a warm shower and then you turn it cold?
Dude, straight cold.
The whole shower?
So I started doing these like, and I started in like increments. Like I would do like, can I do 30 seconds? But I wouldn't go warm and then turn it to cold. I would just go head first, like just get right into the spigot. Yeah. And it's cold as shit and it's uncomfortable. And your reaction is like, oh my God, get me out. You can't breathe. Like everything's like, you're just like kind of hitting panic mode. Right.
Yeah.
But the purpose of this episode is to help people understand why it's important to put yourself in those situations, right? Like you've got to make a decision to put yourself into an uncomfortable spot, right? So there's a lot of science and like a lot of research behind this type of stuff. But like one of my coaches says, like, what's the worst thing that's going to happen in a cold plunge? What is that? You're going to be fucking cold. Okay, great. Why does that matter in business? Because your back's going to be against the wall. If you're an entrepreneur, something's going to come up in that day, almost every day, that you weren't expecting, and there's going to be a challenge, right? If you can prepare yourself for that challenge ahead of time and choose to do the hard things, then you're literally going to train not only your body, but you're going to train your mind to say, you know what, I can get through this. This is uncomfortable. I don't like it. It doesn't feel good, but I know I'm going to be able to get through it. You do these hard things to train yourself to do the hard things to succeed. Yep. Right. And so you have to like put yourself in these situations. Like there's a lot of people that are far better than either of us are at doing this, like the extremes, like the David Goggins of the world. Right. Some people that you and I are close to, Jeremy Newsom does this type of thing. Like I feel like weekly, right? Like pretty intense stuff.
He's a savage.
Okay. But if you pan out and look at Jeremy Alexander Newsom's life, that savage is leading a pretty extraordinary life. Yeah. Or extraordinary life. Why? Because he does that type of stuff like all the time. Yeah. So I started doing it and I did it because I had a coach telling me, I want you to do this. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do it. Hated it. And I'm like, I don't understand why I did that. And he's like, do it again tomorrow. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, make it really fucking cold. Like, don't baby it. Like, just do it. I'm like, okay. So I did that. Well, 6 months later, I was taking cold showers like every day because it shocked my system. Yeah. Right. It was like immediate, like I feel alive, right? I can get through this breath work and then I can go into my day and you feel like I can conquer anything. Yeah. Right. Which is kind of the point.
Yeah. Well, and it also, the science behind it is the fact that it kills the bad mitochondria in your body. There is actual scientific evidence that it is good for you. But I think one thing that you hit on that I really want to drive home is this concept of discipline, like the choice to do the hard stuff is in fact a muscle that you can work out and it will grow. And doing like getting up early or whatever it may be for you, it's much harder in the beginning, but as you get better at it and as you continue to work that muscle, it actually becomes easier and easier. And now you're saying cold showers are nothing. Yeah. They're nothing now. But putting yourself in those situations where you have the ability to work that muscle is, I think, what a lot of people are not doing. And it 100% translates to all the areas of your life, your family life, everything correlates to your ability to have self-discipline and do the things that you don't want to do when you don't want to do them. Mm-hmm. That is it. That's the key. Like, I would say probably the key to unlocking any amount of greatness in yourself, and you're only limited by what you can believe to be true for you, is having that ability, and it creates self-confidence. So when you make those promises to yourself, like, I'm going to do this, this is going to suck, but I'm going to do it. Like last year I ran a marathon, not a runner, always lifted weights, never been a runner. And I said, I'm going to do this. Like, I'm going to run a marathon. The first time I went out to run, I got maybe 3/4 of a mile, gassed, knees hurt, done, bent over, like, and I was doing like 8-minute pace, nothing crazy. I wasn't sprinting or anything. I was like, oh my God, marathons in 4 months, right? Of course I hired a coach, got the best coach in the world, like Ironman guy, crazy. Came up with this whole agenda. And what did I do? All I did was follow the program, had the discipline to get up, put my shoes on, and go put the miles in, and just slowly worked my way up, like, and built the muscle to then go do it. And ran the marathon and got it done. Like, and was able to check that box. And now that's in my cookie jar. So now I know that I have that. And the other thing you alluded to is, like, that decision to do the harder thing, especially doing it early on in the day, carries with you. And you will actually find, like, when, especially beating the alarm clock, or, not even beating the alarm clock, but getting up without hitting the snooze button or whatever it is, like, that trigger, you will find works with you for the rest of the day. When you have an email that comes in that you don't want to respond to, or a call comes in, like something, or you have that, like, hesitation to make that cold call, like, just to do it. And that self-discipline creates self-confidence, and then that self-confidence multiplies, and then it's an exponential effect. Well, you're exactly right. You're setting the tone early for your day to literally be unstoppable. Right. Like, stuff's going to suck. Things are going to come up, but you're setting that tone early. Like you said, whether it's don't hit the snooze button, get up before my alarm goes off. Hopefully you're programming your mind to do these things. Right. And so you're just instilling, like, massive amounts of discipline. Right. And so something that I tell my one-on-one clients is, discipline is not sexy, but the outcome is. Right. Ooh.
Right. It's true. Like, it's not sexy to go get in a cold plunge. It's really not. Like, it's just not. Running, personally, I don't think is sexy either. I'm the same. I do not enjoy running, dude. I don't like it. It's the worst. Right. I just don't enjoy it. It's painful to me. Right. But what I've learned about myself, and what I feel is true about most men and women, is you got to lean into that pain to find yourself. We're talking about coaches a lot, but I have 3 of them. You said in another episode you have 7, right? One of my coaches, I asked the question one time. I was like, why is it that I like pain? And I don't mean like physical, like harmful pain, but I asked him, his name is Julian Rosen. I said, Julian, why do you think I like pain? And he was like, because it's during pain that you find out, when you're going through pain, you find out who you really are. Right. And there's a lot to that. But, I did, again, another, like, fully immersive event with Julian and his whole team. And we just did wild things that, like, they actually don't want me to discuss, but it was just like pushing yourself physically and mentally to the absolute limits that you think you have, and then go do more. And then think you've met them again. Like, I'm talking, like, guys are, like, vomiting, right? Like, broken ribs, like, pretty intense physical stuff that we went through, but we all made it through. And the whole point of that was, like, to take the hard path, do the hard stuff. And when you come out on the other end, dude, you will soar. But you've got to make the choice to do it.
Plus, you realize how much more you actually have in your tank. Nobody ever puts the tank to E, or at least what they think is E, to realize, like, David Goggins calls it the 40% rule. To realize, like, you're actually only 40% of your capacity. When you think you're ready to give up, and, like, that weight, like, maybe you're on your last rep, you're about 40% what's your capability. And then, like, when you get into that, it's almost like a blissful experience when you get past that, and you get into this, like, almost this blissful state of, like, this pain, and how this pain is, you know that you're growing through it. And, Muhammad Ali has a famous quote. They asked him how many sit-ups he did. He said, I don't know, because I don't count my sit-ups. I only start counting when it hurts. So knowing that during pain is when you're going to change. And choosing temporary discomfort for long-term satisfaction is the ultimate win. And it is what your future self will thank you for. And doing things now that your future self thank you for is what successful people do, you know, and even listening to this podcast, pouring into yourself, your future self is going to thank you because, and it may not be everything that we say, but you may just take one nugget from each episode, 2 nuggets, go back, listen to the episode on sales. Maybe you just take one piece of information and implement it into your business. Like maybe 100% of it doesn't resonate you, but just one line that can change. Like when I'm reading a new book, like I'm looking for that one paragraph. I'm looking for that one line. Like, and I'll read a book. I'm a big believer in like reading books multiple times because a book will speak to you at different times in your life based on what you're going through, and you'll actually grab different parts of it. So people always talk about read 52 books a year. Why don't you read the same 5 books 10 times? Yeah.
There's different information. It's the same words on the page, but it's actually different information based on the lens that you're reading it through at that time.
100%.
Right? So I'm always reading something, and I would encourage everyone to do the same. I'm reading The Power of One More, Ed Milet. It's an amazing book. And he donates, like, I believe all proceeds, if I'm not mistaken, but either way, excellent book. But what you're saying is written in that book, like several different times in different ways. And that is the power of doing one more thing, one more meeting, one more call, one more rep in the gym, one more mile if you're running, one more lap if you're swimming, will lead to like just limitless opportunities. But the point of this episode, you've got to be willing to put in the work. The hard stuff. Right.
And embrace the suck. That's the thing. It's like, you know, people feel that. They feel that kind of suck coming on and they pull back. And that's what we're taught to do. And a lot of it comes from, you know, your upbringing or whatever. Your parents are trying to keep you safe, and they're telling you to avoid risk or discomfort, right? Because they don't want to see you get hurt. But walking that line is ultimately, you know, where you're going to find yourself. And you're going to find that hard discipline, and that hard discipline is going to open up. You know, it's not just about in the gym. It's not just about in the gym. It's having that hard discipline is going to resonate through all the areas of your life. It's going to make your marriage better, your family better, definitely your health and fitness better. But you get one, you know, health and fitness is the easiest way to equate discipline. Because it's physical and you're able to see it. And it's really important because a lot of people seem to think you get multiple bodies in this lifetime, but you only get one.
Just one.
And a lot of people are putting, you know, unleaded gas in the Ferrari. If your body's a Ferrari, then what fuel are you putting into it? And discipline when it comes to eating. So choosing that harder meal when it might be easier to order a pizza, or it's easier to, you know, just have a late night snack and eat a cookie, when you should probably order the salad, although it doesn't taste as good. Or you should probably, instead of a cookie, have a protein shake. And it's those little decisions that add up over time create the life that you're living right now. And if you're not in a place where, if you're not excited about the place you're in, that's okay. But it's usually a direct reflection of the decisions that you've made, the little decisions. And there's a difference between macro discipline and micro discipline. And I think micro discipline is those tiny little subconscious decisions that we make, right? Those tiny little ones that add up. And all of a sudden, those micro discipline decisions it's the life that we're living. And a lot of people, I think where depression comes from is just regretting all of those tiny little micro decisions that you've made over the last 1,000 days that have now
100%.
resulted. And you're looking in the mirror like, I'm fucking overweight. Like my finances are in the shitter. I'm losing my marriage. Like my home life is garbage. And the only person who's at fault there is the person staring back. Because if you look back, it's a result of all those tiny decisions you made.
Tiny decisions. And you have to be able to have like extreme ownership of that, right? Like
one of my favorite books.
Right? Okay, so you've read that as well. Same. I actually give it to like all my salespeople because you have to take ownership in everything, right? But those little decisions that you're talking about, those little decisions lead up to where you are now, right? So like what your body looks like today is actually a product of what you were doing 6 to 9 months ago, right? And like you extrapolate that out over time, and that's how you find yourself. And like people talk about like dad bods and all of that stuff. It's like
dad bods are not cool, by the way.
No, it's not cool. And I want to like just shake people when they embrace them, because going back to like,
it's a cop out,
being a man and being a leader. Like you can say all that you want about like, oh, well, Chad just does that because he wants to look good. False. Chad does that because he needs to be an example to his kids, right? Like Chad does that because when he works out and tests his body, he's building confidence in these little bitty increments, like over time, which build up to, again, like you pan out the life that you're leading.
Well, how do you see yourself, right? What is your identity?
Yeah.
Right. So I think this comes to the point of raising your standards for who you are and who you want to be. Because when you look in the mirror, like, and you're a fat slob, like, okay, do you want to change or not? Because if you don't want to change, you're probably not even listening to this. And if you do, and you're a little overweight, right, you set a target, measure it, and then start working towards it. But you have to adopt this new mentality and raise yourself to a new standard, and that becomes the new benchmark for you.
Yeah.
So when you talk about like the decisions that we're making, like I identify as an athlete, like I am athletic, and that's how I have to hold myself to that standard and always remain in an athletic shape, in my opinion. Yeah. And that's just my benchmark is being that athlete. And I, same thing to you. And God, it's so important to take care of your body, and this whole idea that you get older and we deteriorate, like it doesn't have to be that way. Like you can get better with time, like a fine wine, but you got to work at it, and got to embrace the suck. And then you also got to switch that identity, and whatever identity you might have been tied to before, whether you're a McDonald's frequenter or something, like it takes one day to switch that identity, and then just start making those tough decisions, and you'll pick your head up in 6 months. You'll be a completely different person.
I agree. I think people get attached to the fact that everything takes so long, right? And I think it's just imperfect lessons passed down. But people think, well, to change my body, to look like this, whoever you're comparing it to, is going to take too long. But switch the identity. Boom.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm a person who, fill in the blank, works out. I'm a person who works out 3 days a week. Not just works out. I work out 3 days a week. Then you become, I'm someone who works out 5 days a week, and I do 2 days of, intense cardio, whatever that is. But it's about shifting the identity so that you become that person as you're becoming that person.
Yeah.
Right. And I tell my one-on-one clients all the time, if your body isn't dialed, then neither is your business.
Yeah. Right.
Like the gurus of the space, Tony Robbins, he says if someone stands up in one of his events and, they're just, whatever, they're jacked. It's a guy and he's jacked, he's shredded, and you start talking about his company, he's probably doing well.
Yeah.
Right?
9 times out of 10.
Because everything else is discipline, and so is his business. It's a side effect, right? It's a product of the work.
Yep.
So you got to do the hard stuff.
100%. I couldn't agree more. And you said one thing, and I want to drive it home though. Comparing yourself to somebody else. It's a great thing to do. Like I believe in vision boards. I have a vision board at home. Same. So does my wife, and I have my ideal body up there, and I have some other things on my vision board. Right.
Yeah.
But comparison can also be a trap when you tie so much of your value to that comparison. So be careful in that comparison so that it doesn't turn into like envy or jealousy, because what you're doing is you're telling the universe that you don't deserve that. So comparison should just be used as I will take that blueprint, and maybe they have the body I want. So now I'm actually going to go reach out to them and follow the nutrition. Yeah. I'm going to go reach out to them and follow the nutrition guidance that they have or something like that. So then I can take that comparison and turn it into a good, and then use it for me, not against me.
Very well said. Yeah.
100%.
Well said, dude.
Well, listen, I mean, 100% of the time, the harder path is the right one.
Yeah.
I mean, we're in agreement there.
Just make the choice.
Just make the choice, change the identity, raise your standards, and then operate on that new harder path. And the rest of your life will fall into place if you learn how to make the tough decisions, because you'll start to make them in your other areas of your life. And, it doesn't take 20 years to live a different life. Like you can pick your head up, and I mean, we said 6 months for your physical thing to change, but like 3-4 years, like with hard discipline, you can be living an entirely different life.
Absolutely.
With an different, you can go from broke sleeping in your car to honestly millions of dollars, like in wealth creating in a few years. It took me 5 years. Right now I was making tough decisions, making the harder decisions, working a lot of hours and putting in the work. And you have to do that. And we talked about that earlier, but it's 100% worth it.
Yeah.
Every time.
Totally.
Yeah.
Love it, man.
And on this next episode, we are diving into, the opportunities that are in disguise, and how it is better to be prepared for an opportunity and not have one than to have an opportunity and not be prepared for it, and how it seems like money and opportunities just sort of attract to specific people, but there is no success fairy.
There's a reason for that.
There's a reason for that, and we're going to dive into it on this next episode. Can't wait to see you.
Yep.
Bye.